Yeah, just lying here. On your mat too, Helen. Do you mind vacating your mat for some? You don't have to do it, Helen. You're just starting off with the beginning of the movement first. Yeah. So as long as you've all got your head the same direction. Okay. So we've got 4 people lying on the floor at the beginning of the lesson. They've already done something. We're going backwards. And we just notice where their heads are in relationship to the rest of them. And what's the position of their neck and head? Huh? So you can see Emma likes to be in a lot of flexion. No? Her chin's really pulled down, so she's got a lot of length in the back of the neck. Huh? Can you see? Yeah, you can see that? Yeah. I should have asked her where she thought it was first before. So just go through and see the very different positions they all have their head and neck in. This is what gives us all, this tells us why our gaits are all so different. Now, this orientation of the head and how it takes in information. So all bend your knees up to find a place where you know you can lighten your pelvis. And did their heads change to do that? So let's get them all to do it again. And just see, did their heads respond? Was there something that got through the middle of them as they did that? Yep. That you know there's some connection getting through the system. And then they're all going to put their feet where they think it's going to be the lightest place. And again, you can see huge differences. Everyone gets their pelvis, their feet pretty close to their pelvis, or as close as they can get, which is another question. What stops your feet getting close to your pelvis? Length where? No. No. Length this. This is everything. If I don't know, because this is where all the joints are. Yeah? The hands and feet as well. But really, in our legs, all we've got is a hip and a knee and an ankle. They're very mobile, but this is where the movement really goes into its own. Huh? So where someone's feet are gives me a big indication of how much length they know about in their torso, how much they know about some of the shapes that they can make. Because obviously if my feet, if I put your feet further away for a minute, if that's where someone chose to put their feet, and that's where they chose to lighten their pelvis, I know they're not going to get much weight onto their feet. So there's something that it'd be really interesting to have a look at them in crawling, and I can absolutely guarantee you their knees wouldn't be under their hips. They wouldn't have that nice straight line. But we'll talk about more of that as it goes on. So bending your knees and lightening your pelvis, beginning to find, and just you'll see how much of this lightening is about the ability to shift their weight, to redistribute their weight somewhere. So you could imagine, I'm going to, here we go. If my feet are way out there, where do I have to, what has to take all the weight? Because these aren't really ready to. Go on, off you go. Yeah, look at the brace up here. Right across, because that's really the only place you've got left. because you can't get it onto your feet. This is the whole principle of giving people walking sticks, of people using alpine walking sticks to increase their base of support. They're not using them to press on, they're just using them to have somewhere else to transfer their weight to. And that's what makes everything lighter, because I've got a bigger base, I've got more places that I can shift my weight to. So again, lifting your pelvis. Let's see how they all do it. And then the next instruction was hands on your greater trochanters, not your pelvis. No, this is your greater trochanters. Huh? And beginning to move. I think we'll go right. I can't remember. So we're beginning to move, and look how they all organise this. How do they organise this? Because this is what we did a lot yesterday, wasn't it? This whole ability to shift to one side, this whole lesson that was about come fully onto one side, get the length so that the other side can lighten. That's the lesson he's led into with this. So you can see the people that where it gets confused. Where are the parts that can't keep shifting over to the right? That they have to counterbalance and send it back to the left, or yeah. It's translating, not rolling. So you've got to have a lot of mobility through your hip joints to do that. So feel if you just tighten in your hips and your butt a little bit and try and go sideways, you're going to do it from your low back. So it's really important that he set up all this lightness, this ability to feel this getting along on one side, getting along on the other, so your hips are free to do this. The pelvis cannot be free if it's not free in the articulations of the hip joints. Of the hip into the pelvis, or the low back. Now, it just can't be free. So we're doing a slide movement across. And look what their heads do. Because the movement of their heads is going to be controlled by how they can shift the weight here. What they can let happen through here. Or not happen through there. Or an idea of an orientation that has never even occurred to them. Do it! Go, go, girl! Go, girl! Now, instead of turning your head, just side bend it. Side bend it. What happens then? Yeah? Because remember, that's where we finally finished that lesson. We were here, here, and then we side bend the head to get a little bit more length. Because that's the plane of getting longer on one side is about side bending, isn't it? So you can even feel on yourselves, if you turn your head to get longer on one side before you side bend, what's it going to do to your ability to get long on that side? But if you start with side bend of the head, then you can turn, you can do whatever you like. Can people feel that? So hopefully you know, I'm going to try and make apparent how he's putting these things together. How is he building all of these ideas in his ATMs? So now if you are going to go to the left. So again, in an ATM, we're always going to leave people to explore first. Always. Huh? And then it's our thing as a teacher, do I nudge them? Do I give them an extra clue after they've been exploring, after they've been in that process of trying things out? And I go, what happens if you do this? If it's already been set up in a lesson beforehand. Huh? I'm not going to do it if it hasn't been set up. There you go. Now they're all starting to get a bit of side bending. Or as you can see, Emma. Let's see if we give Emma side bending. That, Emma. Huh? And then start walking. And if you were all going to go to the right, where would your head be going? Where would you take your head? To the left. No? If you side bend it a little to the left, because as soon as you side bend it to the left, you've got all of this here open to shift your weight to. Yeah? Because that's the way you're going. Yeah? You've opened all of that area up. Whereas you can see Emma gets a bit lost because her head goes to the left, but her weight shifts to the left as well. Yeah? That way. So how do we get her to side bend, which is what I did. And I took her chin over that way to side bend. Now go. Yeah? Feel how light it is. Because her chin has shifted the weight to the opposite side. Yeah? So again, it depends where have I done it like that, or have I done it like that? Huh? So the contralateral, which is the head in the middle, yeah. So the diagonals are all different ways of getting through. The diagonals is about finding, I've got a relationship between there and there, and I've got a relationship between there and there. And that comes when our head starts to get more in the middle. That's not as easy if my head's off to the side, because if my head's off to the side, I'm more likely to bring one side forward or the other. And this is why Feldenkrais, I can't remember which book it's in, again, these light bulbs are hard. And he said, if someone is always on one side, you must look at the organisation of their eyes. So they'll be dominant in one eye. They'll be using one eye for everything. Yeah? So all of this is showing up, all our habits of perception, how we take in information. So he's got to go back to the eyes over and over again to get the freedom of the eyes from looking, from seeing. Back off. Let's just look at the movements of the eyes. Let's free it all up. Okay, so how are you to go to the other side? And again, I suppose I'm doing this to start to give you more things to look at when you're observing people. Huh? This is your process now, Emma. Is it something about if I just do a tiny little bit of side bend, does that help me? Huh? So, do you all want to go back to the floor and just give it a try on yourselves? And then we'll continue because he's going to go on in the lesson then. So this was about making a circle around the upper back. So remember always that, as I said, there's these two streams, and the learning stream is always paramount. So I want people to explore. I want them to have all of these, that they're in there. I can see they're engaged in a process of inquiry in themselves. But then understanding what I'm looking for in their organisation adds that whole next level of that's different, Gloria. And see how light it gets when something gets clarified. You know, because one of the things that really intrigues me, and we'll do it with Feldenkrais a little bit later, is, you know, when you did that little bit yesterday of putting the hand on the head and trying to feel which way could you feel a bias in the lightness of the head? That's only the second time they've touched each other in Amherst. And he chooses the head. He chooses the ability to feel these very fine movements in the head as the first thing he's going to get people to feel on other people. So he's demanding that they understand something about it in themselves. And you'll see later he's going to do another movement of the head that he's going to ask you to feel on other people. Okay, come back to lying and let's continue. So he's now going on to do a circle around another part of you. Did we pause it there, Jen, or has it still been going? I think it's been going. Oh, it's you. That's it. See, I can't even tell.